So we have a problem. There's usually a problem in this place and even outside of this place due to the fact that the Greenville Group, the landlord for this building and the management company that runs this building complex, elements of the Greenville Group have employed and retained the services of several career criminals in this building complex who they house anyway as a matter of social activism that the Greenville Group visibly and regularly engages in. And they then use these career criminals and psychos who they retain and house to engage in landlord-tenant harassment that doesn't immediately look like landlord-tenant harassment because it is being perpetuated by people who look like tenants, such as Charles Thomas, such as Christopher Thomas. I don't even know if they're the same person or if it's one guy using two different names or two people from the same family, such as the pedophile Jason DaCosta, such as the pedophile Michael Collins, such as the pedophile Mark Collins, such as the pedophile and sex offender who's also a psychopath, Jasmine Irizarry, such as Fanny Matchett, just down the hall. These persons are longtime tenants of this building complex, although they haven't lived here as long as I have. I've lived here longer than anyone else because I moved in here in 2011, way before the Greenville Group started housing and recruiting large numbers of criminally insane thugs and sex offenders and psychos to do their dirty work. I moved in here back when this building complex was normal and actually had people who had jobs and paid their rent out of pocket living in this building. Now it seems to be almost entirely career criminals, sex offenders, and psychos who sit around all day violently slamming things against walls and harassing people when they try to use the bathroom. I have been reporting for at least 7 years now that the aggressive and severely obsessive sex offender who Mr. Eliseyev, the property manager, housed in Unit 78, which is located directly behind this wall, between 2013 and 2022, and whom he continues to choose to house in this building complex, has a thing for getting into my unit. I'm not sure how she gets in, presumably by picking the lock, which is something she did back in 2016, 2015, when I was inside this unit, watching her pick the lock. This person manages to get in here when I'm not in, or sometimes when I am in, and likes to contaminate my food, my personal care items, and my clean clothes. She doesn't contaminate my dirty laundry. She goes for the clean, freshly laundered clothes that you have to use in order to go to work the next day or to go see your friends or to go out. And she smears them with some really nasty, foul-smelling body fluids that leave a brown stain all over your clothes and your towels and your sheets. And this has been going on for at least 8 years, if not 9 years, 10. So one of the things that Irizarry, the criminal sex offender and psychopath who Mr. Oleg Eliseyev likes to praise in terms of her criminal abilities and her activities of getting into anything, as he put it, she goes for the coffee. She knows that I need coffee in order to get going in the morning. The fact that there are surveillance devices being used in this living space is not a secret to anyone. It's been going on for at least since 2015. That's when things started getting really weird around here. And in 2017, I found a tiny little surveillance dot in the bathroom of this unit, located directly across from my toilet. The dot was across from my toilet. It looked like a paint splatter. I kept noticing it, and I was like, what the heck is that? But I just figured it was a paint splatter, right? Like a little tiny, round, shiny dot. But then I noticed there weren't any other paint splatters around it. It was the only black dot on the wall. It was directly across from my toilet, so I always had to stare at it. And then when I looked closer, I realized I had a tiny little lens in it, and this dot was literally the size of the tip of a Sharpie. I have since lost my sight and can no longer find tiny little surveillance dots, but that doesn't mean that they're not in here. And that one dot probably had friends hanging out somewhere else in this unit. So this is expensive coffee. It costs maybe $6 or $7 per box. I love it. And I've hidden it in the back of this cabinet right here so that it wouldn't get stolen or vandalized when I am out. Usually when I leave this building, I'm gone for at least 8 or 10 hours, sometimes a few days, depending on where my obligations and responsibilities and work-related to-dos need to take me. So I've been gone for 4 days. and this thing's empty. There's no coffee in it. There's like a tiny little bit left. I'm not the one who emptied it. When I left, this thing was at least 1/3 full, plenty of coffee to use. I hid it in the back of the cabinet and now it's empty. This is something that has been going on for at least 7-8 years. The first police report that I filed about vandalism and theft of my coffee by someone who seems to know exactly where I keep my things in this unit and when I happen to leave was in 2017. I filed a report when I had left a cup of coffee, freshly brewed, delicious coffee on my countertop, and went down the hall to the common bathroom for literally 2 minutes, left the coffee on the countertop. And when I came back in, the coffee had been spilled all over the counter. And when I tried to drink it, it induced sudden, intense, violent cramping and stabbing pains under my rib cage, which means that somebody had put a chemical contaminant in that coffee. If somebody puts bacterial or biological contamination in any of your food items or in your drink, it takes a couple of hours for the bacteria count to reach critical mass and to start making you sick. So legitimate food poisoning, such as E. coli, salmonella, the usual suspect bacteria strains in terms of food poisoning, take a few hours to develop in your system and start proliferating in large enough amounts to make you sick. When you immediately start experiencing violent cramping, stabbing, and other visible symptoms within moments of ingesting something, obviously that is a chemical, not a biological agent that has been used to contaminate your stuff. Apparently, whoever likes to mess with my coffee ran out of contaminants. So instead of putting contaminants in the coffee, which is really easy to do if it's in powder form, they just dumped it out. So I went to get this coffee to make myself a nice, delicious, gourmet cup of French vanilla coffee, and there's nothing in here. That's something that's been going on for years. Also, this coffee right here, I've had it for, a week. The contents of it is also instant coffee. It's in powder form. So if you're a psycho and you like to mix in all kinds of chemical contaminants into people's food, putting like a poisonous powdered substance, I don't know what they can possibly use, rat poison into somebody's coffee when it's powdered is easy. And the remaining amount of coffee in this jar has also been inducing illness upon use over the last day and a half or so, which means that whoever messed with this coffee messed with it when I was out of state and traveling. Irizarry claims that she is a activist. Her close personal friend, Christopher Thomas, claims that they are BLM. I have screenshots of their comments, and that's why they get to do whatever the hell they want to do, and nobody is going to do anything about it because people think that BLM is some kind of legitimate charitable group that helps Black people. And that's kind of a joke because BLM actually does nothing at all to help Black people. BLM is not really about helping Black people. It is a Marxist, radical, anti-American activist group that refuses to actually help Black people. What they do is embezzle millions of dollars of donor funds on strippers, hookers, prostitute services, peep show workers. And this has been extensively documented in several documentaries about BLM, one of them made by Candace Owens herself, an African-American female who hates BLM. I'm glad to see that because it's time that the African-American community realize that BLM does not do anything to help them. Really? When was the last time BLM donated money to helping families of children shot by gunfire in the inner cities of Philadelphia or Chicago or Washington, D.C.? Do you ever hear about that? No, of course not, because they don't do that. They spend the money that people give them on strippers and hookers. BLM spends millions of dollars of donor funds on prostitution, hookers, strippers, and peep show workers, and that's why Amazon have deplatformed BLM from their donation list. Amazon is no longer carrying BLM as one of their organizations that people can donate to. Amazon dropped BLM years ago for embezzling millions of donor dollars on strippers and hookers and refusing to provide accountability as to where their money goes once it's donated to them. I'm talking about BLM, not Amazon. So this is what donors who give to BLM spend their money on. Harassing people who keep to themselves and don't like BLM because it's their right. I don't have to like BLM. What do they do for anyone? When was the last time you saw BLM donating money to Black victims of anything? They don't. They spend the money on themselves, on perving and creeping and wanking activities, on denigrating women, using them as strippers, hookers, and peep show workers and other types of sex-related activities for themselves, because BLM are mostly a bunch of involuntarily celibate, perving and creeping career criminal males who can't get anything for themselves, so they embezzle donor funds, hire a bunch of hookers, and party all night long, and then spend the money on harassing other women who don't want to be their friends. So there we go. This is where we are right now.